This is the third attempt at making a HP85 keyboard cable. What you're watching is a CNC milling machine with a custom cutter replacing a normal end mill, and the CNC control program, instead of cutting with a spinning tool, is cutting with a fixed tool. This is basically behaving like a CNC shaper, which is an antique type of metalworking machine. It's taking 10 passes at removing the plastic coating over the copper traces. Each pass it is going down 3/10,000ths of an inch, so the total depth of cut is only about 0.0025 of an inch approximately. The problem is the material is basically Teflon, which is very hard to cut and is very stringy, so trying to do a stronger depth of cut, or rather a deeper depth of cut per pass, would actually end up tearing the material. So that's why it's taking many passes, cutting very, very shallow cuts each time. Looks like it might be leaving a very thin film of material after the last pass, which means it's not quite cutting deep enough for some of these. So what I'll do is I'll make it cut approximately 0.005 of an inch deeper and repeat the whole process. Yes, you can see on the 2nd, 5th, 7th and 9th. Interesting, they're all the odd positions, but I think that's just bad luck. Anyway, we will run the same program again, and it should then clean up the surface. And if that works, then I can then use the current setup to cut many more cables, each one taking approximately 5 minutes per end of the cable, and that's for the 11. For wider cables it will take appropriately longer to do. And what it's doing right now is the alignment at the far end. Let's just I've just moved it out of the way of the cutter so I can clean things up, and it looks like it mostly did it okay. You can see there's a thin film of material here, 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 here. In fact, there's no copper exposed on that one. There's plastic still covering the whole of that surface, and there's a little bit there. So you know, some of this variability is because the actual thickness of the cable is not perfect across its full width, and so you know, I'm cutting to a consistent depth, but if the thickness of the plastic on the underside isn't consistent, then that could explain this. Anyway, I've just gone and adjusted the height. I've brought the whole system up by about 1/1000th of an inch, and I'll just rerun the program. It's easier just to do that, even though it takes 5 minutes, than to try and specifically target the ones that are problematic. So what we're looking for here is, on the last pass of each of the ones that has a problem, is it cleaning it up and removing the final amount of plastic that's covering the conductor. So for some of these it's not going to change anything because you cut them okay, like the current one, but this one, on the very last stroke, hopefully it will clean it up. If it doesn't, I'll raise the material up a little bit further, but unfortunately the precision here needs to be in the order of 10,000ths of an inch. Okay, so that looks like, let me dangerously put a probe in there while it's still cutting. Yeah, that looks like it's cleaned that up correctly. So this is one that it already got right the first time, so not to worry. It's the next one. This must be one of the most exciting YouTube videos you've seen today. You're welcome. Okay, and that's now cleaned that one up correctly. Unfortunately, the actual copper material is extremely thin, so there's not really much margin for going in too deep. So it's a very tough thing. If you go too deep, you'll tear the piece of copper out and you won't have a connection. And if you don't go deep enough, there's a plastic coating over it, which ruins everything. So this one and the one that's two further down are the ones that had the most plastic, and good news, it's cleaned that one up very nicely. And one, actually I guess two more need a little bit of attention. This is where I discover I forgot to turn the camera on. Okay. That looks good. And that's the last one that has a little bit of material at the beginning end of the cut. I wonder what sort of clickbait picture I should put on my video to increase the number of views above 1. Okay. So that looks like it's finished. This pass is deburring, so as it's doing some cutting, it is leaving some traces. So this is actually cutting halfway between the traces and just catching any bits of plastic that are sticking up and cutting them off. So basically a deburring process. And finally it's recutting the alignment edge, which it's already done, it's already cut there. That one cuts almost all the way through, although to avoid cutting into the tooling aluminum plate underneath, I stop about 2/1000 above that surface, and then I finish cleaning it up using a sharp scalpel. A little bit of hand detailing at the end. Okay. And okay, let's see, just use my calibrated finger to remove a little bit of the crap, and that looks perfect. Okay, so I now have all the settings right, and I can now make more cables exactly the same way. Thanks for watching.